Well, my name is Gabriele Magnaghi. I am from Italy. I found this university through UCAS, college application, different ranking like the BETA ranking. For me, it suits me perfectly because it links the creative side of the course to the actual more practical one. So for a creative person like me that still enjoys a bit of science, it's perfect. I found it perfect.
My name's Annie. I'm first year, I'm 19, so I took a gap year before I came to uni, just because I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do. It was hard for me to choose a course, because I was in between textiles and product design. So it swayed me towards product design because I had more opportunities. So with fashion, I kind of only had fabric, whereas product design, I had plywood, metal, anything. And there's loads of technicians that'll help me. So even though I'm not very skilled in metal, there's always someone that I can ask, so it's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, teachers-wise, they're always here to help. I had some issues with my CAD. That is the thing that I found.
CAD.
Yeah, I found myself less comfortable with, but the teachers were super helpful. They literally followed me till I fully understood the topic and just found a breeze after that. The great thing about our course in general is that it's the course, in my opinion, that you get out of with the most skills. You learn the most out of all materials, manufacturing techniques, and what's not. So when it comes then to a working environment, because of what we got taught here, it's just so much easier to get into, just because you got so much skills and so much learning materials. Then
I'm Rachel and I study product design. I'm in my second year. We've done quite a lot of drawing, which is fun, and it's developed quite a lot throughout the years and getting through, especially developing all the line work and everything. And down in the workshops, learning how to use 3D printers and laser cutters, because I've never used them before coming to uni. So they're quite good, and the technicians are all really good at helping you to do it all. The lecturers are all really nice and really helpful, because they just go to them and ask them for help, and they'll help you whenever they can. For one of the modules, we've been given a brand, so we've been given Porsche, and we have to design a steam iron for them, but we have to look more at the consumer and what the consumer actually is rather than the brand, really. So it has to match the brand but not be based on the brand, more based for the type of buyer. So you've got to do lots of drawings and develop these sketches and stuff to develop the idea, and then you've got to start making models and try and see how they look in different materials, so blue foam, using the hot wire cutters and the bandsaws to form them all and sanding them all down, trying to make it look, trying the ergonomics of it to see what it's like to pick it up, but you've got to constantly relate it back to the Porsche designs so that they match and everything. It would still be seen as one of their products.
I'm Chloe and I'm my second year BSc. As BSc, we spend half our time in the Queen's building and half our time in the design building. We do 2 modules with BA and 2 by ourselves, learning the fundamentals of engineering in your first year, along with the CAD and the creative side as well. So in your first year, 25% of your year is fundamentals of engineering. That includes electronics and mechanics. You'll have a very small exam at the end. Apart from that, throughout the year you'll be doing coursework and labs to practice from the beginning, and you'll learn from the beginning exactly what you need to do throughout the year. And then everything else will be your BA. So that's your CAD module, your design module, making your major project, and your design cultures, which is looking through the history of design, and then your reverse engineering, where you're given a product in a team, breaking it apart and drawing all the sections of it and looking at how it's made right from the beginning to the end. In our first product, we had 4 weeks to do 4 very small projects. One of them was just looking at research, and then we had to make a spaghetti model looking at the weights and how over-engineered a product can be, and then they cut away your product to make it as small and as thin as possible so it still held the weight And then in the second half of the year, the toy project, where we had to make a mechanical toy to move away from screens and technology to make something simple that got all the family involved and all ages involved. So I made a volcano that you had to use a mechanism to get from the top of the volcano to the bottom before the lava caught you up. The other thing I really enjoyed doing in my first year was we had to make a festival chair. The brief was it had to be flat pack and then pop up, and then it also had to hold a certain weight so you could stand and dance on it. The way that they tested this is they got all the teachers to sit and then stand and dance on your chair in front of all the students until it eventually collapsed, which is really fun to watch. I'm now currently making, in my second year, along with my CAD modules and my engineering modules, my design module, I'm making a medical tablet dispenser. So the brief we got given was to make something out of aluminium and a post-oil feature so we can use any plastic. I had to look at where was high waste in plastic in the design industry. So I looked at medical products and that plastic pots are being used on a regular basis. So I wanted to create a medical dial that spins around your tablets, and then once you're finished with your tablets, they will sterilise it and then bring it back so you can constantly reuse your product. In their first week of you being here, you get all the contact details of all your tutors, so you can message and call them whenever you need any help with anything, but they are normally in the building, so you can just grab them for a 5-minute chat.
My name's Dylan, I'm a second year product design student. We have about 4 modules and they're kind of split to different areas of a design process. So we have one that's kind of an overall about design process start to finish, another one about model making, kind of aesthetics and sketching and drawing forms, another one about design for manufacture, and then a final one about CAD modeling and renderings. So the first project that we work on in the year is the Lego project. It's a group activity and it gets you straight into there using all the different machinery in the workshop, so you're able to experiment with the bandsaw and figure out what kind of shapes and forms you need for the Lego man. You're given a lot of support and like sort of templates so that you're not just chucked in the deep end straight away, but you also then have the ability of some freedom in order to allow you to kind of figure out what your preferred style of model making is, whether that's blue foam or cord, and then you can then use those further towards the end of the project when you have to paint and finish, so you have an aesthetic model that you can then give your presentation at the end. And the design for manufacture one is something that the uni really focuses on very heavily, because it's arguably one of the most important aspects in product design, because the ability to know everything that you need to know about when you have a product and you're taking it to market is something that you won't necessarily get at other universities, because they don't teach to the same standard, the same level about design to manufacture, because although you might find it boring in the initial, it's incredibly engaging and it's something that is extensively valuable, because once you get to the point where you're working with companies and you can show them something and they might like it, but is it feasible and can it actually be manufactured in a certain way? It's kind of aspects that you really need to know, and it's great to get into this practice earlier with your other modules, so that way you can then take that ideology and transfer it into your main projects and kind of have that same sort of mindset, thinking, can this actually be made with this process? What kind of finishes would be practical? What would be the most cost-effective way for this? And that's something that carries from first year all the way through to your final year. You learn kind of the bare bones of it in first year, and then you use what you've learned to then transition forward into the second year as well. So I'll frequently take my project for CAD and take it to my other modules and ask for help modeling it if I'm struggling technically with something, because then the tutor is the one that runs that whole module and he's able to say, well, you could do this and change that slightly. So overall it's really a collective, like, whole projects that we work on together, and they're all interlinked in some way, and that really does lead on to then when you get into your third year and you're doing your major and your minor project.
Hi, I'm Freya. I'm currently third year product design. I've been at Montfort for 3 years now, so it's my final year. I did a placement year, was lucky enough to be accepted on the Erasmus, which Montfort is really good at. They have partnership universities abroad and in Europe. So I applied for that and luckily got accepted. I found out in July last year and did a placement at Schwäbisch which is a town outside Stuttgart, which was one of the most exciting things I've ever done in my life, and I'm very grateful for the university to have accepted me. I chose De Montfort in first year as I felt there was a very student vibe. I think you genuinely know if you like it here or not. You just get that buzz. My major project this year is to do with assistive mobility. So I'm looking at how the elderly and rehabilitation works and how I can get someone to be more mobilised, I guess, in their home life. We've just finished minor project, which is half of the year. My project was a headrest for aeroplanes and car seats that allows someone to sleep with a visor over their head just to get a bit of nap time, for example. Second year was, I'm trying to remember, a radio project, lots of CAD work. So we did a project to do with USB design. So you get given a booklet on a USB and you have to model it around three-dimensional forms in CAD, so SolidWorks or Rhino, for example. And you have to build all the internals, but you come out with a showpiece stopper for your portfolio.